Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to look at the stories that have made it to the front pages of our national dailies. And joining us this morning is Jide Johnson. He's a Public Affairs Analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to greet you. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, so we'll begin with the Punch this morning, and this is just riding off one of our top trending stories. The Punch leads with ex-National Assembly members, groups fault reps 31 new states proposal. The writer here says, Senator insists focus should be on states' viability. Afenifere Pandef call for true federalism. And in fact, on The Nation is also one of the leading stories here. It says there's two proposals for new states before House of Reps panel. And North Central says to be 7, Northeast 4, Northwest 5, Southeast 5, South 4, and Southwest 7. What is your take on this? Because sometimes I just don't understand why we focus on the things that are less important. There's so many things that's going on in Nigeria right now that we're having to deal with. But yet, our House of Reps members are just thinking that maybe 31 new states would be something that would just help us and take all the problems away. So the moment we create these 31 new states, all of our issues when it comes to inflation, when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to housing, education, whatever it is, it will all go away because what we need right now is 31 new states. What's your take, please?
Yeah, well, the implication of it is far-reaching. First, those guys that are behind this are just creating empire for themselves. They are just trying to create fiefdom which they can use to contest election to be the governor of the state. It's not only that these states will have governors, they will have state house of assembly, so they will have speakers, they will have commissioners, and at the same time they also have representation in the National Assembly. So they are going to have three senators times 31 states will give you about 93 senators. 93 senators plus the existing 109 will give you 212 senators. Well, we are going to pay for it, minus the fact that they are also going to create state house of assembly, create house of reps. So it's just fair done. Instead of them to look at the imbalances we have with respect to the local government structure and trying to assuage the feelings, because the government that is closest to the people is the local government. We should look at ways to reform the local government, devolve power more to the local government, create more local government where and when necessary, and address those imbalances so that the various subnationals can have some measure of representation at the local level, which they have control over other than creating states. And these guys have embarked on a jamboree to create an empire for themselves through which they will contest. As far as I'm concerned, I will not see the light of the day. They are just wasting my time in my own understanding and explanation, because it's quite, I will divide existing Kogi state into 3. Even if you look at the list, it's even more confusing. With the list which they have provided, this one in some of the lists there seems to be duplication. So as far as I'm concerned, like you said in the opening monologue, there are serious issues that needed attention other than for them to be looking at state creation. They should come together and solve our economic problem rather than be looking for providing political offices through which people can seek public offices and then have access to public fund and dip their hand in the cookie jar. So I'm sure this is going to receive a lot of resistance from so many people. Look at one of the biggest states in Nigeria. Let's even talk about it. Let's even look at it constructively. One of the biggest states with one of the largest landmass in Nigeria is Niger State. Niger State was not even touched. So, Rume, they are just a stock shop that leads to nowhere.
It just beats my imagination that we have other problems. And imagine for a country that is owing so much debt, a country that doesn't have as much money, and we're going to be spending so much, because we keep talking about the cost of governance, right? And we're saying how much they are spending, but like you just rightly pointed out, all of the states will have governors, commissioners, representation in the National Assembly, and that's a whole lot of money. So where is that money going to come from? If at this point we're already crying out that Nigerians are suffering, we don't even have, we can barely put food on our table.
Texas is bigger than the whole of Nigeria. Yet, it's just one state.
Yeah.
And United States has 50 states. Nigeria wants to have 60.
Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. Because I spoke about the landmass of America, even Canada. And how many states do they have that we're looking at for? Well, our landmass is not that big of a nation compared to some others. So why are we thinking that 60 something new states, 31 new states, so a total of 67 would just help us? And I'm wondering what way. If maybe peradventure in some other realm, some multiverse, how would that even help us? Does creation of new states help the development of a country?
Some of these states is only their state capital that has some semblance of presence of government, government presence. If you go beyond the state capital, there's nothing which you can show for, even with the revenues they've collected from federal allocations since their creation. So it's let's look at it. There's no. I'm talking because this the part I'm from. So there's no two between Osun State and Ondo State. There's no four lanes connecting the states. There's no where you want to get to Ekiti State, that through Ondo or through Osun, whichever way you want to go, that you see 4 lanes or 6 lanes connecting expressway connecting the states. So despite the fact that it's been created since 1996. So these people, they know way to distract us. They know way to distract us from the reality of what we are. You see, if you check other headlines which you are going to read, you see that this is just a major distraction from the economic hardship that Nigerians are going through.
Yeah. I think we need to focus, to be honest. We need to know what we're doing and focus on that. There's so many things that we should be looking at as a country. That's what we should place our focus, not having to create new states. All right, another story here on The Punch says Tinubu Mbeki, that's the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, Gowon advocates homegrown solutions to Africa's challenges. So in fact, there was a summit, and speaking, we're like, oh, you know what? Well, let's stop looking at foreign blueprints and start to look at homegrown solutions for Africa to address the challenges that we have. For you, what do you think that our leaders need to start to do when it comes to wielding policies and transforming the African continent? Because it seems that like all of the solutions that they bring are things the World Bank will tell them, the things the IMF will tell them, and whatever has been written on paper. So, but sometimes because of our peculiarities, it just doesn't work. What are some homegrown solutions that you think we need to start to implement in Nigeria, in Africa as a whole?
One of the homegrown solutions for our presidents and leaders not to travel outside of Nigeria, to place an embargo on foreign travel for themselves and some top bureaucrats. It's also for them not to seek medical tourism abroad. It's also for them not to send their children to go to school abroad. And it's also not for them to repatriate our money abroad. Those are the areas in which there is homegrown solutions. And it's also for them not to reduce their taste for foreign goods, foreign foods, foreign cars, and all of that. So they should use homegrown cars. And that's leadership by example. Beyond that, all of that is just pure rhetoric. As far as I'm concerned, if Africa, there must be Pan-African nationalism. Africa must know how to trade with themselves. Africa must do an integrated transportation system that requires me to go to Morocco, or to go to direct without having to do connecting flight with Paris and coming back either to Senegal or the rest of it. So all of this we need to put in place for us to be talking about homegrown solution. All of these people that are talking, they've ever said, you remember Gowon said that the problem of Nigeria was not money, but how to spend the money. Thabo Mbeki was vice president, and later he became president of South Africa. So what did he do? Now we have our own president joining this particular jamboree. He's been president for almost 2 years now. He's traveled to France more than I can count in my single finger. And then they are looking for homegrown solutions. What type of homegrown solutions? When they are not even setting the right agenda with respect to homegrown solutions.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that, because if, for instance, they know that they cannot just go on medical tourism, they cannot just send their kids abroad, or just live outside the shores, then they have no choice but to start to develop our nation. They have no choice but to ensure that we have good schools for our children, because they know that their own children would also go to those schools. They have to know that our healthcare system is important, because if something happens, and to be honest, I tell people this, like if an emergency was to happen right now, no matter the money that you have, you might not just make it in Nigeria. And that's just 1,000,001 ways to die in Nigeria. Because what do we have with our emergency response system? What do we have with the ambulance? Nothing. We don't really have a healthcare system that works. So even before you're thinking of traveling abroad, if you have just limited time, you might just go in that time. And we want our leaders to be able to say, you know what, let's develop our nation. Let's have a heart for the African continent, because this is something that we've seen that's not just happening in Nigeria, but even in other African countries. And we need to find those solutions for us, because if Africa comes together, we're going to be really, really strong, and we're going to transform the world. We have so many things, we're blessed with so many things, and that's what we need to be looking at right now. But let's look at another story. So this talks about the Nigerian Ports Authority, and NPA, obviously, fresh price hike looms as NPA plans 15% tariff increase. In fact, they were saying that they need an upward review, that last time this review was done was in 1993. But I know that with the import duty, you always hear, because of the dollar, the inflation, it rises all the time. But what do you think about this 15% tariff hike again on top of all of that?
It's just tax us to death. That's just it. You recall that Donald Trump wanted to use it. Donald Trump used the tariff as a means of political diplomacy in order to get Canada, Mexico to provide security at both the northern and the southern border of America. And then you saw the use and price that surrounded America slapping the 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, and then the tariff was removed by the president. As far as I'm concerned, I think the goal of this administration is just about pure revenue generation. That's my thing. You look at the various hike that we have had in tariff, telecom tariff, electricity tariff, removal of educational subsidy. You can go on and on and on and on and on and on. Taxation does not grow the economy. Taxation, when you take away a lot of money from the disposable income of the people, you can't grow the economy, because levels of investment, which is the lowest level of investment, is savings. And in view of the pressure on the disposable income of Nigeria that they can't even use to survive, there's nobody that is saving anything. So I can't forget this cartoon. Then Obasanjo was the head of state then, and there was this cartoon either in Daily Times or Sketch newspaper then. And then, then they used to, these military people used to use belt around their waist. So this cartoonist used the belt in Obasanjo's, Obasanjo has some measure of tummy, and used the belt to almost split him into half. The sense was perfect visual communication that sends the message across. Look, it's clear that we have had different economic policy. I remember when Babangida brought his own structural adjustment policy, they said which will bring about economic transformation. I remember the word that came out of it, we have been sapped. Energy, life has been sapped out of Nigeria. So if they want to hike us off the mountain, let them hike off with tariff of the mountain. At least at the end of the day, all our heads will be correct, and people that refuse to go to the poll will go to the poll in the next electoral cycle. And they will make demands for what the government is going to do with respect to their lives, with respect to the economic policy and the rest of. Not that people will go to stadium, they start clapping their hand, and then we begin to talk on the basis of our ethnicity, on the basis of religion, and all those primordial interests will guide our decision making when it comes to electing leaders. Let's go through it. Until we go through it together, people's head will not be correct, and they won't take informed decision.
All right. So finally on the Punch. Well, so there's a story here that says Ogbibena GHL file appeal against favorable High Court ruling. So I'm sure you might be familiar with these stories. Also on the Nation, Ogbibena GHL appeal against favorable ruling. So of course their assets have been frozen, and that's Unduka Ogbibena and some other, I think about 3 other people, they've expressed dissatisfaction with the ruling. What's your take on this story?
Well, it's very simple. Where it's their right to approach the court, and they have the right to get to the Supreme Court to make a determination concerning whether their case is valid, or their case or the allegations leveled against them is valid. So it's their right. But as far as I am concerned, it's bad optics, and these are the people. One of the principal character in all of these things was the one whose organization gave award, whose organization gave award as the best governor as this. I've said it. Media organization should not look. The watchdog should not be a reward dog. It's out of place for media organization to be given award. How can somebody that is meant to ensure compliance be the one that is rewarding those that is meant to watch over? It's an anomaly. Mm-hmm. So, and this character which you are talking about is the one that said is going to deliver the one for the president in Nassau. And this is somebody whose asset, alleged by the court presently, has been frozen. So all you need to do is just to grab popcorn and sit by the sideline and enjoy the drama, which is called Nigeria, and look at the players and the actors. They remain the same. It's just that every 4 years they change their clothes like chameleon, and they put on the ring. The ring is like players making transfer. You see, the transfer season has begun. Some people that were elected on that one platform, they've gone to and they've dropped the jersey of PDP of Labour. They are now putting on the jersey of APC. So in 2027, so it's not that of place for you to see new teams coming and then people dropping their jersey and hanging them. They are all the same. And it's becoming clearer to you and I about the rot within the system locally, and about the rot in the system globally with what is happening in United States of America. So you see that the role that we should play as a compliance regulator, as the watchdog, can only be played when we are independent and when we don't get enmeshed in the mess of the cookie jar. But the economics of the media sometimes put pressure on the media to do that.
Yeah. All right. On the Nigerian Tribune, it leads with MAN, that's the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, TUC, the Trade Union Congress, won over proposed hike in electricity tariff. And MAN has said that the planned increase may lead to closure of more businesses, ill-timed, deliberate act of economic oppression against Nigerians. That's according to the TUC. And this story is also on the Business NG as well. It says, MAN slams electricity tariff hikes hurting manufacturers. So, of course, our manufacturing industry hasn't been the best lately because a lot of companies are leaving Nigeria, they're moving away. And with this now, because they need electricity, you need power to be able to do almost everything in Nigeria or almost everything in the world. What MAN is saying right now, that the planned increase may lead to closure of more businesses. What's your take on that? Knowing the fact that if we're even talking about taxation and we want to be able to generate revenue, we need these companies here doing their business and manufacturing these products, because that's the only way we can generate revenue. But if this electricity tariff hike would affect them, then what do you think the government needs to start thinking of right now to ensure that these companies can still stay in business?
What value are we getting from the electricity distribution company? What value are we getting from the generating company? And what value are we getting from the transmission company? What value? As I'm speaking with you, I'm using natural light to project for what we are doing now. What value are people getting? And what value are those that are, and then what value are we getting when the government has a discriminatory policy of saying there's band A, there's band B, there's band C, there's band D, and the rest of it, disaggregating the citizen on the basic amenities that government is meant to provide. When they campaign, they say they will give us good roads, they will give us light, which electricity, and then they will give us housing and the rest of it. They are not providing that. And then what type of incentive are you providing for industrial areas? I recall in those days, there used to be industrial areas. In those industrial areas, you galvanize electricity for them, because once you have the production sector, the manufacturing sector working, one, you create employment. Two, you grow your economy, and three, you improve the standard of living of your people, and then you contribute to your gross domestic product, which makes you to compete competitively in the international market, and you're able to export your excess production to other countries that needs it. So it's clear, it's basic economics. But the bottom line is that when these people are contesting for election, they don't talk about economic issues. They always look at issues that divide us on religion, on ethnicity, on zoning. Those are the things they talk about. And they knew quite all right that most of human decisions are propelled by emotions. And so they play on those emotional appeal, and people get carried away, and they forget that emotional appeal will only work with you during the period of the election. Emotional appeal will not sustain you for the next 4 years of the administration. And so that's the reason why we have found ourselves. What justification does this government or previous government have in increasing the electricity tariff, in increasing telecom tariff? I just want to know the justification that they have. Yeah. Is it in terms of service delivery? Is it in terms of optimal service delivery? Are we getting optimal service delivery? Are we even getting value for our money?
All right, sir.
Are we even getting value for our life as a citizen of this country, despite all that we give to them, the comfort,
I can understand your frustration. Yeah, I can understand how you feel and how passionate you are speaking about this. It's just quite sad. And just like, TUC has said, this is ill-timed. Knowing what we're going through as Nigerians at the moment, I think there's something, just give it space, give it time, or don't bamboozle us with so many things. But sadly, this is where we are. I don't know what's going to happen with this. We'll just keep watching. Anyways, Jide, we want to say thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful weekend. You too, sir. All right, so we're speaking with Jide Johnson. He's a public affairs analyst, and we've just been looking at the stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at our first hot topic, so please stay with us.